quote. I say, listen, you get to roll out, be fat, be out of shape, be broke, be unimportant with no girlfriend. And instead of the world thinking you're a loser, you get to say, I'm not a loser, I'm depressed. It's a shield. Yeah. And I say, that's why you don't want to lose your shield. Because now you have accountability, now you have performance to cop out. Fuck it off. I don't give a shit if it's real or not. We're not about that. We're talking about success here. Get rid of your excuses, stop defending the thing that's ruined your life, and get to fucking work. And every time anyone has ever listened to me in history, ever, every single one of them's transformed their lives and messaged me positive messages afterwards. Every single fucking time. That's why I'm antidepressant. Because that pill ain't gonna fix you the way becoming the man you wish you were is gonna fix you. It's crazy. And then they're gonna take one little soundbite. Tate doesn't care about mental health. He thinks depressed people is some bullshit. And they're gonna apply it to me. I really do believe, and I state this almost with a degree of achievement, I'm the most misunderstood man. I really believe I am. It's crazy the level. There are people out there who truly believe I am evil, and I'm nothing close to it. I'm one of the most compassionate people you can possibly meet.
Can I give you two takeaways just for people that are like, oh?
Every single one of them's transformed their lives.
Can you hear me?
Every single fucking time. That's why I'm antidepressant. Because that pill ain't gonna fix you the way becoming the man you wish you were is gonna fix you.
Is it working, guys?
Instead of the world thinking you're shit and it's real.
I think it's working now. Can you hear me, guys? Live? What's up, my boys?
Oh, Andrew Tate. Here's what I've heard from you so far. Personal responsibility. Straight up.
Absolutely.
Right? And then number two, positive affirmation. I don't want negativity in my life. I don't want depression around me. I don't want weakness around me.
Right.
I want to be the best person I can be and take full responsibility for that.
Right.
Those are the two things I'm hearing. We'll go on further.
I'll tell you a story, which is going to make me sound a little bit extreme. This is a story of when I knocked out my friend.
I was going to ask you this story if this is a true story.
It's a true story.
Okay, about your boy that showed weakness.
Yeah.
I got to hear this again.
Right.
You know the story? Jesus Christ.
Right, so I don't like negativity in my space. I create my reality extremely efficiently. So no matter what bad happens to me, even in the middle of this shit storm, when me, my brother, my cousin, my team were sitting around, we're all smoking. The whole news is saying I'm the worst man in the world. I've been deleted from everything. They've frozen millions of dollars in bank accounts, right? Me and my boys are just sitting there, just laughing, right? We don't believe in negativity because if it's infectious and it's sticky. And even if someone's negative, even if you talk them out of it, it still stains the air, right? If you're in a trench and you're under fire, the least productive person is the person who goes, they've got too much artillery, we're gonna die. Shut the fuck up. We all know. Shut up. That's not helping us, right? It's very infectious. So, and most people understand, they say, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Then why the fuck are you spending time with negative people? Or people who complain? Or unhappy people? Or unlucky people? Or negative people? Stop talking to them. Everyone I talk to is like, yep, we are winners. All we do is fucking win. Oh, the Matrix attacks us. Oh, you think I need YouTube? You think I need YouTube? Get fucked. That's who we are, right? So this was when I was young. I was about 23 years old. I had a new girlfriend. Her name was Carrie. And her ex-boyfriend, I stole her from her ex-boyfriend. And if you're a man, you understand that no woman's truly single. You're always stealing her from some other guy, or she's still half talking to her. Oh, bro, she's half talking to her ex, or she's dating 10 guys. They're always out competing other men, right? So stole her from some dude. Dude got heartbroken, had no emotional control, like all the things we talked about. I was at her house. My car was outside her house. I was with my boy, Tony, my ex-friend. Me and Tony are in her house. She's talking to her friend. I'm talking to Carrie. We're all having fun. It's Friday night. 4 cars pull up. Boom, 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 boom. These 6 guys get out with hammers. Knock on the door. It's her ex-boyfriend. Carrie starts panicking. He's crazy. He's crazy. It's like, listen, relax. I go outside with Tony. There's 6 guys with hammers. It's me and Tony, right? And they say, he goes, bro, I don't even give a fuck about Carrie, but you're going to say sorry to me. I said, sorry for what? Because you stole my girl, you're going to say sorry. And then we'll just go away. said, I'm not going to lie to you, my friend. I'm not sorry for fucking anything. I'm not going to lie to you. I ain't sorry. And then my friend Tony next to me, and when I said that, I swear to God, when I said that in real time, because I don't take my eyes off the enemy, right? There's 6 of them.
Hey,
They're all facing me directly. So I was looking in their eyes directly.
Follow.
When I said that, I saw all of their eyes go, shit. You ain't gonna say sorry. So now we have to actually attack the hammers. Do we actually want to attack it? At the time, I was British kickboxing champion. I was known in my town. They knew it was gonna be messy, right? And I had one hand behind my back as well. I had nothing in it. I had nothing in it.
Who knows what's back there?
You had to do something, right? So they're looking at me and they're like, fuck's sake. You thought he'd say sorry and he didn't. Now what do we do? And Tony pipes up. Fucking dickhead Tony. Hey man, why don't you just say sorry? And as he said that, I saw all of their faces almost lit up. Because he inspired, the other team showed weakness, inspired weakness on our side. And from complete capitulation, they were now brave again. Because Tony ran his mouth. I swear on my father's grave, I'm standing there. Tony said that. I turned, I fucking smacked him, strained his mouth, knocked him out cold.
Tony, don't.
Tony, my own friend, my own teammate against the 6. I knocked him out cold.
I don't need you now, Tony.
I knocked him out. I said, fuck him and fuck you. I'm in the house. And I walked in the house, and I saw them all standing around outside with hammers. Look at Tony asleep, and go back in the cars and fuck off. Swear to God, that's a true story. If you're weak near me, you make me weak. I refuse to accept it. I give you a million stories of this. 2 years ago, maybe, we were in Munich. They called the police on me for not wearing a mask. That's a whole nother story. I told them to get fucked as well. We're in Munich. Wasn't wearing a mask, blah, blah, blah. We got drunk in the Kapinski, got really drunk, blah, blah, blah. I was drinking with some guys I kind of knew. In the morning, the police had come. They were threatening to arrest us all because we didn't fucking capitulate and wear 8 masks. The Germans are weird. So we got in our cars, got in our we had 2 Raris, got in the Raris, we're heading back to Bucharest. We drunk loads. We were really, really drunk. We stopped at the gas station. We all got out of the car. One of the guys was like, bro, I feel so sick. Oh, man, I feel sick. He was walking to the gas station. I said, and I went up to him. My brother talks about this all the time. He goes, and I patted him on the back and said, bro, if you're going to keep walking like a fucking injured antelope, you're going to stay here. We drunk booze. We all feel like shit. I'm not walking around Earth with some dude. I don't want you in my group. I don't want you getting in my car. I don't want you near me. When I walk with my team, you look and go, let's choose someone else. Let's choose another group to prey on. You are the weakness in this group. I don't give a, yeah, you drunk whiskey. Yeah, you feel shit. If you can't turn it on for 2 minutes to go piss and come back in the car, then get fucked. I had a serious conversation with the guy. Tristan goes, you're so right. Why the fuck? And there was no threats. We're at a gas station.
What do you think?
I can't even look at it and near me. I can't just see people near me being all or crying or sad or whatever. You're allowed to feel sad. Of course. Your girl left you. You lost your job. You're allowed to feel sad. That's fine. You feel sad. You feel sad right now? Good. Great. Sit the boots. Shut the fuck up. Me and my brother have another quote. What do you want? Therapy? That's our quote. We say it all the time for anything. Bro, I got a hangover. You want therapy? No. Well, then what the fuck? Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Like, why are you even saying it out loud? Why are you believing in it? Yeah. Why are you making it real? We all feel like trash. We drunk 10 bottles of whiskey. We all feel like trash. But we're high net worth individuals getting out of Ferraris in a country we don't have security. Nobody's walking fucking like we do. It's a reality you have to curate. And when you get your shit straight, it affects your entire life. And men understand this. They say, I understand you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Then why are you friends with all these fucking nobodies? Why are you friends with these losers? Why are you doing it then? Then you're accepting what you're going to be. I love winners. I love winners. Show me a winner. I love winners all day long, my friend. That's who I want.
You cannot choose wherever you want to be as a friend, man. Or you can try to choose, but maybe that person's only interested in you guys because maybe money or something else that you can provide it. So it's tougher. If you don't have really loyal friends, when you don't have nothing to offer and they keep being friends with you, I think that is the most value of friendship, guys.
I want to be friends with winners. That's what I want to be friends with. I don't want to be friends with anybody else. I don't see the advantage to it. And that's how I've always created my life, and it's served me very, very well. And I refuse to accept anything else because negative energy is extremely sticky. Like you have friends who are talking negative shit. Try and fix them.
Sometimes
it's your duty. But if they're sticking to their negative narrative, you don't have a responsibility to them to a degree to sit there and allow them to pollute your life. Because that's what they're going to do. You have to get to a point where it's like, goodbye.
How many friends have you had to completely cut off. I'm not saying knockout like our friend Tony's probably still sitting there in a ditch.
Watching this podcast.
Yeah.
Tony,
Tony's
my
out
friend.
there like,
Tony,
Jesus Christ.
Tony, listen. Had to happen, bro. You could have inspired them to rush me and kill me. On a serious note, you could have been the inspiration for my death. So it had to happen. I hope your life's going well. I'm sure it's not going as well as mine.
Sorry,
That's
Tony.
how it goes, my friend.
Yeah.
But
How many other guys have you had to cut off?
you'd be surprised because there's so many, because everyone likes to talk a good talk and everyone likes to pretend they're X, Y, Z. And I'm quite a fair person, you know, and I love like my biggest friends in the world today are friends who I had when I had nothing and they came up with me. Let's say when I had nothing, I had 10 friends.
Guys.
Now I'm at the top, I have 4. The 6 I had to drop just didn't level up with me. And there's only so long you can pay for them to go to the club, pay for them to go on holiday, lend them a car. There's only so long until it's like, bro, everyone else pulled this off. Everyone else, and I've offered you a job, and now you're sick, or you're tired. It gets to a point where it's just detrimental to your life, and you have to be ruthless about it because you have to create your reality. It's the only way to do it.
You can't compromise your standards. By the way, I'm listening to him, and I'm just going back to stories myself because at one point I went to a different direction than Tate did. But you cannot compromise your standards for nobody. Nobody. That includes your spouse, your friends, your family, nobody. There's a difference between loving somebody and compromising your standards. Those are two different. I love a lot of people, but I'm not compromising my standards for people I love. You cannot be doing that because only you know how big your dreams are. Only you know what life you want to build, and only you know who you want to be. Compromising your standards, one of the biggest fatal mistakes any man or human being can make. You know, you were telling a ghost story. You took me to a place which is crazy. We rented this castle called Oika Castle in New York. Funny story. You'll appreciate this. So when we rent this place out, it's a beautiful property. It's a $150 million property. I rent out all the 32 rooms, and it's got one of the best restaurants in town, so we rent it out. Now, a couple of my guys who are very superstitious, they say, Pat, I read articles, this place is haunted. So one of the guys, Alejandro, who's Mexican, you know who Alejandro is, Ricky's brother.
Ricky's brother, yeah.
He's very
Badass
superstitious.
guy.
He says, hey, Pat, by the way, these brothers, they're brothers. Like, if you meet them, they're like,
They could compete with the Tate brothers and
legit brothers. Yeah. Now, Alejandro says, hey, Pat, you know, I'm hearing this place has got ghosts. I said, it does. He says, really? I said, of course this place is haunted. So now I'm playing with them because I'm trying to, so that night, I said, whatever you do, sleep tonight, be careful, because I hear they pull notes and all this other stuff. So I go tell Mario and the guys, I said, guys, tell me when Alejandro goes to sleep. Alejandro goes to sleep. I've taken notes, and I write, I'm watching you. At 1 o'clock in the morning, I slide it, because it's one of these old doors. I slide it under his doors. We go to the side, and we hide. We knock on the door. He comes out. He says, who's out there? Who's out there? He's panicking. Next morning, now we all go to sleep, we wake up. First person I ask us, so guys, you know, last time we talked about a lot of different things. Alejandro, how was your night? This place is haunted. This place is haunted. Anyways, but going back to you.
When you believe in ghosts and things like that, guys, of course they will appear to you because you believe them. That's simple as that.
Talking about Logan Paul and you. And for you, you said, I don't give a shit about YouTube. You think YouTube's that important to me? I don't care about being banned from you. You're making this comment, this argument, right? Okay, fine. And you said, we're solving for two different things, okay? Yeah. He's solving for one thing. You're solving for another thing. You know, you present yourself as a methodical person, as a person that's very much about sequencing, as a person that it's about my next 5, 10, 15 moves. Who's Logan trying to be in your POV? And who are you trying to be? Then I got a follow-up question for you on that.
That's a good question. I don't think that Logan is actually thinking that far ahead. For him, it's more about preservation. He's been canceled once before. He doesn't want to get canceled again. He wants to have viewers. He wants to get a big YouTube channel. He wants to sustain it. He wants to continue to be an entertainer, a clown for as long as he possibly can. I don't think he's thinking anything beyond that. He wants money in his own pocket. He doesn't care about the society as a whole. He doesn't care about the ideas he enforces. He doesn't care about the people who watches him. He doesn't care about their mentalities. He just cares. He's quite selfish. I want my YouTube channel. I want my money. I'll say what I'm told to say. He's bought and sold. My intention is to truthfully, and I say this in a religious sense, but it's not a particular religion. It's just a religious sense. I want to live true to God. And by living true to God, it has to live true to my ideals and what I believe is the best for the world and what I believe is best for men as a whole. And I also want to try and create a world which reflects that. And my intention is much beyond a YouTube channel. I don't give a fuck if I lose a YouTube channel. I don't care which platform I'm on. I want to know what I'm saying is true to how I've lived, and that if people emulate it, they're going to genuinely end up with a better life. People, when I got banned, said, well, we don't want people to end up like Tate. And I said, why? I have no criminal record, no criminal convictions, successful, hundreds of millions of dollars, dedicated. Like, what would be so bad if men ended up a version of me? Like, what am I going to do to the world? Like,
look, guys, if you agree in 90% of things what Tate says, because you never agree with 100%, anybody, even your girl or your parents, your son, you're not agreeing for 100% of those things. So if you agree in 90% of what Tate says, you will be a successful people. You'll think differently.
like, so, and I also think this ties back to something earlier you said about China. Do you know what the most, I don't even heard the statistic. They asked Chinese children what they want to be when they grow up. And they asked Western American children what they want to be when they grow up. The most popular answer in China was astronaut and engineer. The most popular answer in America, YouTube. Doesn't that say so much about the mentality of the youth?
Yep.
Right? So I'm probably more on the engineer or perhaps philosopher at least, or at least brave. Like I'm trying to teach tenets that if people replicate are going to be good for them as a whole. China, we have engineer astronaut. Logan, entertainer. He doesn't care if he has to make a fool of himself. He doesn't care if it's a stupid costume. Yeah. He doesn't care if it's to be a clown. Anything to get, because he's selfish. So I think that we're just, you're right, we're solving for completely different things. I know I'm a net positive to the world. He's a very selfish individual. And I think if people try and replicate me, it's better for the world. I think if people try and replicate Logan Paul, well, let me be a clown. Let me just try and make jokes and wear stupid suits. Let me mock the dead, mock people who commit suicide, and then let me just say anything I'm told to have a YouTube channel. I don't think that's good. I think that's actually detriment. So I see him as a detriment. I see me as a moment.
Okay, so my follow-up here is the following. So during COVID, the first person that interviewed a doctor that got 20 million views, that got everybody thinking, was Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan interviewed this one doctor. I don't know who it was. I don't remember the guy's name.
Peter McCullough?
No. This is phase one. No, this is March of 2020. If you can pull it up, you'll see who it was. He interviewed this guy, and he got, Joe was saying, so listen, I'm being told if I go in the sauna, if I sit in the, steam room and I sweat it out, and it says, nope, this is not that, this is this. And it wasn't a person that would have said it otherwise. So people believed him and said, okay, maybe this is something we have to pay close attention to. Anyways, during COVID, I believe Joe played a very important role.
Super important.
Super necessary voice. I was telling him when we were together, I said, I don't know if you realize this. You may be one of the most necessary voices in America
100%.
On what you've been able to do.
100%.
So now, Alex Jones will say to Joe, and I've heard Alex say, I know Joe believes this stuff, but Joe knows how to maneuver around it.
Yeah.
And he's just like learning how to maneuver in. Yeah. But I know he believes me, but he acts like he doesn't with him. But I don't know, maybe. So, and Alex is saying this about Joe. So then you hear, what's his name? You hear Dave Chappelle does a comedy special. Yeah. And he says, hey, ladies, I just want to tell you, I think one of the most miraculous things you can do is have a baby.
Yeah.
It's, you should have freedom of choice.
Yeah.
I'm for you.
Yeah.
You should have. So all the ladies said, you should have a freedom of choice. But there's a but. If you choose to keep the baby, I can also choose not to pay child support.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden people are, wait. But
No,
that's not.
that's
not cool.
That cannot be, guys.
But some people say, well, listen. He makes a very good point.
Yeah.
If it's your choice, it should be my choice whether I should pay or not. Mm-hmm. But whether he's right or not, it's irrelevant. It started the conversation. Then the one bit he did about, so I see this card, there's the LGBT, everybody that's in, there's a queer, there's this, there's the trans, there's this, there's that, right? And he calls out the transgender community, and they're about to cancel this guy, right? Okay. Neither Joe nor Chappelle got canceled.
Correct.
That's good for society.
Agreed.
Hear me out.
Agreed.
That's good for society that neither Joe and Chappelle, because society needs these two guys.
Agreed.
Because they get to talk about stuff that gets everyone to be on the edge. Now, Joe almost got canceled.
Almost. I remember that came from him hard.
Very much. The hardcore. He almost got canceled because of the N-word or because of all these other videos that resurfaced. And he came out and he did his video and he said, here's what I'm going to watch it, et cetera, et cetera. And then Chappelle took his angle as well, where they tried to cancel him as well. But all I'm saying is, from how we need certain people to be out there pushing the envelope and questioning the status quo. So you're looking back for yourself right now.
Yep.
There may be a lot of people now. You can say, look, I'm not solving to be a YouTuber.
Yep.
I'm not solving to be on TikTok. I'm not solving to be on Instagram.
Yep.
But the messaging is not going to be as visible.
Agreed.
As great as, you know, Rumble
Forget
stock
to
is up
follow,
and
guys.
12%, all this other stuff.
About,
I totally
the
get it. I
growth
hope
of
they
the
blow up.
channel.
I think it's great for Facebook to have a competitor.
Agreed.
But it's not that. Say, first of all, I want to get your thoughts on that, but say you do get a second try at this.
Yeah.
Okay? Say you do get a second try at this. What adjustment would you make?
And that's a good question. And I understand your point absolutely. And I agree with you. The world would be a better place with me on these mainstream platforms. What's interesting is I think they killed me in my infancy. Even though I became the most Googled man on the planet, it was very, very meteoric, happened very quickly. I had already had conversations with my team internally, understanding that now that I'm the most famous man on the planet, I have to curate my messaging. Not say anything different, but say it in a different way. We were already doing that. For a month prior to the ban, we had already changed a lot of the messaging, changed our stance, we said the same things, but changed the way we'd say certain things, removed certain subjects altogether, and we were already curating our messaging. However, they looked at me, and I think that the social media companies saw me as perhaps a 19-year-old warrior who's soon going to become a warrior king, and thought we either kill him now, or he's going to become too big to kill, and they decided to kill me now. I've only been super viral for 6 months. If they would have given me a year, the messaging would have absolutely been curated to a point that I don't think they would have deleted me at all. One of my last posts on Instagram was, I wrote this post. I said, I understand that certain people have false narratives about me, and I'm looking to correct them. So on Instagram, I put up a post saying that for every like this picture gets, I'm going to donate $2. $1 to female charity to protect them against domestic violence, and $1 to men's mental health charities. $2 per like to show that all my haters who only talk negative, I actually do something to fix the problem. I take the negativity and I turn it into light, as God would want me to do. I'm going to donate money. It was a 7-day countdown. Instagram deleted me on the 6th day. When at the time of deletion, I had 555,000 likes, $1.2 million. I was prepared to donate to charities. Nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to mention it because I'm evil, right? At the time of my deletion, when I got deleted, the only appeal I sent to Instagram, the only message I sent was, can you confirm the number of likes on that picture so I can finish my donation? They ignored me. Completely and utterly didn't even want to reply to me. So I was already understanding that the way you can say certain things when you have 300 views on a video, where most of these views got 300 views, has to be created and changed. Not because I'm saying anything incorrect, but as a professional, you have to understand that things change. And also, no matter what you say, a very small contingent of the world will misunderstand it. If 0.1% of people misunderstand you, that's not a problem when you get 300 views a video. That is a problem when you get 3 million views a video. So me and my team had already accepted this, already decided upon it, and had already implemented it. But the momentum was so strong and the rise was so meteoric that the social media companies, even a month after our implementation, decided, I'm sure they sat around and said, we kill him now or he's going to become too famous to kill. And they thought, we have to try and kill him now. Now, they have failed. Rumble in and of itself has proved they've failed. I get more views on my Rumble videos than I got on my YouTubes. When I did a YouTube live, I had around 12,000 views. On my first ever Rumble live, I had 127,000. On my second, I had 75,000. So they've martyred me and made me more famous than ever. But the message has already been created and changed. I understand very, very well, because as a professional, you have to take accountability for everything. I understand that if a 15-year-old kid, without my life experience, without my credentials, listens to me, not in full, but in segments, small parts, and then takes it on board, it may negatively affect some of his outlooks. I understand that. My counter argument is this. Find anything on the entire internet where if it's not chopped in a negative way and fed to 15-year-old kids, where it cannot be a detriment. That's the entire internet. That's anybody. We've already talked about modern culture, having sex with the devil on TV, transgenders, whatever they're trying to do, make kids chop the dicks off, whatever. We've talked about all this. So that's the entire internet. That's not an argument against me. That's an argument against the internet as a whole. But I was responsible enough as an adult to say, okay, I'm still going to take that in mind, and I'm still going to be responsible for that myself and change my messaging. which I intended on doing, but they already decided to nuke me absolutely and completely. And that's where part of me, I don't want to be too defiant. I'm certainly not looking to go to war with anybody, but part of me is kind of like, I would have never ever been controlled opposition because I can't be bought and sold. But I would have had very, very detailed conversations with social media execs and say, what are you truly uncomfortable with? The way you say this. Okay, well, here's what I'm trying to say. Yes, okay, so what if I said it this way? Okay, cool. Let's work together. But they didn't want to be reasonable, logical actors. They wanted to just try and annihilate me, hoping I would disappear. And they're realizing in real time that I didn't disappear. So now I'm sitting here ideologically thinking, do I give a fuck what they think? I only care about making sure my message is a positive for the world. Do I really give a shit what YouTube wants? Now, so if they do let me back, yeah, sure, I understand certain things have to be created, et cetera, et cetera. But my messaging will remain true. The things I say, I do mean. They are genuinely a positive. And this could have been a positive experience for social media for me. How much money did I bring to social media companies? I'm the most viewed man on the planet. Not a single monetized video. They wouldn't monetize me. Billions of unmonetized views. How much money were they making? Like, it could have been great for everybody, but they got emotional, sat somewhere in California, emotional, decided I was evil, and they decided to go the destructive route. So it's kind of like, you know when the Germans tried to negotiate with the Russians in World War II? There was negotiations at the beginning, and the Russians spoke a lot because they were trying to actually negotiate. And then once the Germans overstepped the line and took the piss and destroyed Stalingrad and took a bunch of Russia, when they tried to negotiate with the Russians again, the Russians only asked one question. The German negotiators came when they were losing. The Russians just said, why are you here? Oh, well, I'm here to represent the Germans. No, 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 no. This is Russia. Why are you here? Where were you born? Berlin. Okay. Tell me the story. Why are you here? And after hours, you end up saying, well, I joined the army and Hitler made me do it. And I ended up getting here. Because once you've been fucked with to a certain point, it's just like, well, I don't know how much I want to negotiate now. Like, so as the social media companies, if they were to finally come to their senses and speak to me, sure, I understand certain messages need to be created. I understand that. But I don't need them. I no longer need them. There was a point where I perhaps believed I did need them. I now understand that I don't. And that certainly changed the negotiating table. Absolutely not. Because my messages, they've only proved me right. All they've done is prove me right in every regard. I have more viewership, more views, and more dedicated, more loyal fans than I've ever had. All they've done is damage their stock price. You're correct, Rumble's gone to the moon. All they've done is damage their own stock price and convinced everybody who believed in me that the Matrix genuinely doesn't want people to understand my ideals. They have martyred me. They have martyred me now. So now it's going to be a matter of, yeah, I will talk to you about coming to your platforms, of course. But I'm going to say the same things I say, and yes, I'll correct the messaging, of course. But we also have to have a conversation as professionals for you to understand that you acted emotionally and made a mistake. And it means a lot to me because I'm a principled man. If a senior, whoever, SEO exec were to say, yes, we made a mistake and we're sorry we misunderstood you, that's all it would take for me to say, no problem. I understand that. I'm going to create my message.
We know that's not going to happen.
Of course it's not.
Yeah, it's
because this is what happens with tyranny. When you have a monopoly, and this is the beautiful thing about the world, because the world's so sick. When you have a monopoly over anything, you believe that your monopoly will last forever. Everyone always has. The Roman Empire did, the Third Reich, social media companies. When you have a monopoly, we're smarter than all the other control mechanisms and monopolies. We're never going anywhere. We're too smart. And the funny thing about monopolies and tyranny is that you have to use force. And force is something I understand very, very well. Force is a very, very powerful tool until it's overused. Let's use the Romanian example, just because I live in Romania. It's the only reason I'm going to use it. There's a riot, there's a protest, you send the army. Get rid of it. Riot, protest, send the army. Get rid of it. Riot, protest, send the army. Try and get rid of it. They won't leave. Open fire on protesters. Too much. People have had a fucking enough. Then you end up ousted. There comes a point where you can use force, but once it's overused and people don't believe in your fairness, people don't believe in the fact that you're non-biased and you're still using force, there is a mass uprising. This is the human nature. I truly believe my banning was that moment in social media. The stock prices reflect it. My views on Rumble reflect it. The public sentiment across all social media platforms reflect it. People understand that they have overstepped the mark and they are no longer seen as trusted with force. You can't have force if you're not trusted with it. The reason we accept our governments to have police forces and guns and weapons is because to a degree we trust them. Once you accept your government is a psycho tyrannical dictator, you don't want him to have any force anymore. I think they made a massive, massive mistake. And if they don't see it themselves yet, they will certainly. The pressure is behind the dam. The only crack that's missing is for someone to be canceled and be more successful than before. That's all that it takes. One crazy guy in fucking Bucharest. And then you're going to see a mass flood. And I didn't want this war. I didn't want this. This is what social media companies forced me to do. But this is the situation they're currently in, whether they realize it and see it or not. But my cancellation has made me more successful than ever before. So now what? You shot me with your biggest bullet. I'm still here. What do you do now? And that is the responsibility is on them. If they can remove their emotions from disliking me and actually look at the chessboard, they're going to see they have a lot of pressure on some key squares.
Can I push back?
Absolutely.
Okay, let me push back a little bit. So on the video, you're going away video, you say, I take full responsibility for what's happened. The ban is a good thing. This gives me the opportunity for a fresh start. It's a massive opportunity. I have no ill will for social media companies.
Correct.
Or the haters out there. I will pray for you, but I will not go down as a villain.
Correct.
Your words. I will not go down as a villain. Fantastic. So, you know, the part that I also see that's a challenge is the following, which is very hard. You know how you're explaining in almost all tyrannical situations, they don't know that they have a monopoly until eventually there's a revolution and then boom, flips, game over, it's over with, right? I should be in Iran right now. I'm not in Iran because the Shah thought, you know, he wasn't paranoid enough and he thought he was untouchable, okay? Yeah. I'm supposed to be in Iran today. I'm not in Iran. We were forced out. Carter comes in, Kissinger, it's out, game over, and I'm living in the States. Now, God's got a bigger plan. I support it. I'm not sitting here saying, I wish I was in Iran. There's a part of me that's thankful for Jimmy Carter, and there's a part of me that would love to sit down with the guy and have a nice, lengthy conversation with him.
Yeah.
But, so the Shah does an interview. I don't know if it's BBC or one of the interviews. They're asking him a question. Iran's growing rapidly. They got this massive 25-year contract with 5 countries for oil from 1954. It's a petroleum contract he signed. It's coming up. It's 77. It's Germany, France, US, UK. I believe it's these 4 countries. They're sitting there worried because this guy keeps saying, I'm going to raise the prices. I'm going to raise the prices. In the next 5 years, we're going to be bigger than UK. In the next 25 years, we'll be competing with US. And he's the man in charge. And he's got a smirk on his face when he says this. And a little smirk on a smile on his face says he thinks he's untouchable. What ends up happening? This is a guy running one of the most powerful countries in the world who speaks 7 different languages, possibly the sharpest cat in the world in the 60s, 70s coming up. And his father was Reza Khan, who was a top G, you would call him, a badass mother, you know, at the highest level. He was a guy that was feared because he was in exile because he was a little too tough. Okay. So this happens, and that takes me to another place when Michael Jordan is getting retired. LeBron tries to do the noble things. I think we should retire number 23 because, you know, Michael Jordan, there's never going to be another Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan says, no man is bigger than the NBA. And I appreciate that, LeBron, but no one is bigger than the NBA, right? Okay. So for you and where you're at, I get what you're saying. I fully get what you're saying. And by the way, you have to know, we're hoping you're right. Of course. We're hoping you go out there and get 100 million subscribers on Rumble and you have the kind of follow Mr. Beast, PewDiePie have in Rumble, and Chris is going to be a billionaire. You're going to do what you're doing. Everything's going to take off. Great. But we're also in the conversion game. If the outcome is really to talk to people who you can convert, because if you're talking to people that you agree with, you're not really, injecting that philosophy to baptize people. What made you necessary was you were on platforms where 80%, 70% didn't agree with you.
Agreed.
And you were baptizing.
Agreed.
You were forcing the conversation at the dinner table.
Agreed.
You were forcing a conversation at lunch, at dinner, at the gym. I don't agree with him. I think he's full of shit. I think he's Masan. I agree with him. I like what he said. I don't like him. My girl likes him. Why does your girl like him? All this stuff, right?
Agreed.
So, I say this again because I'm glad Joe earned saint status. So this is kind of where I'm going with this. Let me kind of flush out my thoughts on what I have. Here's what I see you don't have. And if I was an advisor sitting on a board and you're like, hey, I got 5 people, guys, here's what I want to do, next 50 moves. What do you think? And these are people you trust 100%, bulletproof people. I would say, okay, who do you really have? You don't really have, you have fans, you have true believers, you have 100% true believers. But here's the part, what institution supports you? What do you mean? What major institution supports you? None.
Agreed.
Okay. Who supports Joe? UFC. That's powerful.
Agreed.
Because Democrats, Republicans, independents, white, black, Hispanic, educated, uneducated, degree, CEO, billionaire, millionaire, broke man,
Correct.
follows UFC.
Correct.
Chappelle. What organization supports Chappelle? Comedy.
Correct.
He's the king of comedy.
Correct.
He is the GOAT of comedy right now. He's the guy at the top.
Correct.
It doesn't matter what anybody say. He is the GOAT. He's
Correct.
the guy that everybody talks. So what do you think you need to be doing if you were to strategically, because like you said, kickboxing is not that big of a space.
Yeah.
Where could that
I know.
thing come in? I think you understand what question I'm asking.
Absolutely. And you're completely and utterly right. The reason I believe that I'm going to be okay is threefold. One, the Matrix has not completely and utterly deleted me because they can't. I'm still all over these platforms. I'm still all over. My account's gone.
Yeah.
I never had a TikTok account anyway. They said, when I read the news that they banned my TikTok account, I said, I don't know which poor 15-year-old had his account deleted, but it wasn't mine. I don't have one. I don't have a TikTok account. I no longer have a YouTube account. I no longer have an Instagram account.
That's crazy, by the way.
type
You
my
didn't
name.
even have a TikTok
I
account.
don't have one. They watch it.
Although you were going viral on TikTok.
It's destructive for the mind. It destroys your attention span. So I don't have it on my phone. I'm already all over these platforms. The problem is, my biggest problem I was facing pre-ban was a lot of people going, Tate's smart, and I agree with him, but he's too fucked with the Matrix, the narrative, the enemy, him being dangerous. Nah. That's the only problem I had. Nobody said I was wrong. They said I was semi-paranoid. Then I was proved right. So now I've had so many people going, you know what, I loved your content, but I thought that this part was wrong. But fuck, you were right. You were right. You were right. They proved me right about a whole bunch of things. And what happened was actually interesting. When I first got banned, for the first maybe only 6 hours, if you put up a new video with me, they deleted it from YouTube. But now they've stopped because you can't ban everyone. You can't ban everyone. You can't ban thousands of accounts. You can't ban all the young men. You can't ban all the reaction accounts. You can't ban all the haters of mine who can't stop commenting on my videos. You can't ban Logan Paul talking about me for hours. You can't stop it. So now they tried the true tyranny and backpedal. So I'm already still all over you.
True, guys. That's
But now
true.
I have a merit. I have a badge of
He's winning this war, guys.
he's telling so much truth that they banned him. Another thing they don't anticipate is that I've been talking about my ban for years. This is something they don't talk about. When I've been on every podcast saying I'm going to get banned for 3 years and then I get banned, does that make me look smart or stupid? I told you what was going to happen. It didn't surprise anybody. It didn't surprise me. I've been talking about it for a very, very long time. Now, the public consciousness, let me talk about this at length. The reason I don't have high-level support yet is because the public consciousness is simple. The public consciousness, companies follow money. They know how much money I'm worth. Imagine I were to endorse a crypto. Just imagine. I never would. And there's a bunch out there pretending they are me, but they're not me. Imagine how I could turn a nothing into 100 billion market cap. But I don't support these things because with cryptos, it's player versus player. Some people sell at the top, some people lose. It's normal. I don't want any of my people to get scammed. So I don't support these things. They know how much money I'm worth. They're scared of the backlash. I have had, and I won't say what type of company, but I've had at least 15 companies reach out to me from varying industries, sponsorships, payment processors, social media companies, etc., who have literally said to me, we're monitoring public sentiment. We see it changing in real time, and we'd like to discuss a sponsorship or some kind of deal in perhaps a few months. Everyone's waiting to make sure that because right now, 80% of the population know it's bullshit. Once 90% or 95% of the population know that the backlash against me is bullshit, the amount of money that's going to be offered to me to support things is going to be monumental. It's already coming. It's already there. People already love my ideas. You would not believe, I don't want to say the car brand, but there's a particular car brand. Think of the top 5 luxury car brands you can think of. There's a particular car brand. I bought one of their cars. It's a flagship model. It's 1.2 million. I bought it. They did the big unveiling about a month ago. I couldn't attend. I was busy. I sent a friend of mine in place because I had a special card to go see it. The CEO of the company said, please, can you get him to email me? I emailed the CEO. He said, listen, I know a lot of things go public, but we can't say these things publicly. I just want you to know that we support you. But these are the CEOs of billion-dollar companies. They're all already on my side. They have to watch their stock price, as they should. They have to march PR, public sentiment, as they should. That's changing in real time. This is why I talk about the redemption arc. It may take 6 months, it may take 2 years. The things I say are too powerful and too beneficial to the populace for it not to turn around where people say, Tate is a good man. That's where all of that is coming. It is coming, and you're right. It is coming. Right now, as a company, you sit there and look at Tate and go, we love him. He could get our exact audience. He could bring billions of dollars, but there'll be a backlash. But it's changing. It's changing. I really believe in 6 months that will completely and utterly change. And we can talk about things from payment processors who've reached out, the car brands who've reached out, to all the people who've reached out and said, listen, please, we're monitoring, we're on your side, we're emailing you once a week, we're just talking to the board, we're monitoring social, like it's all absolutely not really coming, because they know that I am a force for good. They know that I have a huge contingent of people who believe in me and trust in me. And I want to say this also publicly on camera. They also know my endorsement is extremely powerful, because unlike Logan Paul, who sells crypto pump and dumps, making kids lose money, who sells an energy drink full of sugar and trash, sells crack, they know I don't need money. So anything I stand up for and endorse is because I actually like it. You can come give me $100 million for some shit. I ain't gonna take it. That's trash. People who believe in me. I will not compromise my integrity. The one thing people know when they look at me is I'm an integral person. I certainly have morals, because I wouldn't have ended up in this fucking position any other way. So they look at me and go, if he endorses something, people are gonna believe him. And I won't endorse anything I don't believe, so they're right. So any brand who comes along and does business with me is gonna make a bunch of money. Let's look at Rumble. Rumble were the brave ones. They stood up and they signed me. They come up, they said, look, we believe in you, we believe in what you're saying, da-da-da. They signed me when no one else would. Look what happened to their stock price. 30%? A stock? In a bear market? In a recession? Like, people are paying attention to this shit. So this is all coming. We're just waiting for public sentiment to shift, and it's shifting in real time. I have my own team monitoring social media comments in real time. At the height of the shitstorm, at the true height of the shitstorm, it was 50-50. It's currently 80-20. It's only going one way. They can't. The problem with the social media companies in the Matrix, they fired all their bullets. They can't start printing again that I'm a misogynist. They can't get the Daily Mail to do a new story on how I'm dangerous. They've done it all. They've run out of ammo, and I'm still alive. They've emptied the clip, and it hurt me, but I got up. And now they're like, click, click, shit. What else are they gonna do? What are they gonna do? What are they gonna say about me now?
Can I tell you why?
Sure.
Well, because you talk about institutions being behind certain high-profile individuals. Saint status you referred to. While Joe Rogan, you couldn't cancel Joe because UFC's behind him, or Chappelle.
Well, he said he was 12 to 24 months away from. He wasn't there yet.
No, not yet.
Yeah.
But the institution, it's not a formal institution, but it's certainly an institution, is you've won the hearts and minds of young men across the planet.
Right.
And even if you get canceled on social media, you still have millions and millions of young men that's like, where's Tate? We want Tate.
And this is why they killed me early. They killed me early because they knew I was going to get to this status. But the problem they don't understand is that inside of every single young man, there's a rebel. Whether it's the punk rock rebels, whatever it is, every single young man has a degree of rebel in him. Mm-hmm. So when you take their hero and martyr him, what does that do? It solidifies the rebel status. You wouldn't believe, I've had 17-year-old kids from Slovenia email me trying to give me their life savings, $2,500. Anything to help you. The amount of money they're trying to, I'm like, bro, I don't need money, thank you. These kids will do anything to keep me alive. Like, it's true belief. It's true belief. That's why they tried to annihilate me. They thought we have to annihilate him now. He's going to get to a point where he can't be annihilated. But it didn't work. In fact, it re-solidified it. I had to find other platforms. Perhaps it slowed it down, whatever. But the hearts and minds are still there. There was a video that was on my Instagram of when I went to Slovenia. Slovenia. I've never been to Slovenia in my life. I turned up in the Chiron. I parked outside a hotel. I don't know if you guys seen it. There are 5,000 or 10,000 people outside the hotel screaming, top G, top G, top G. I'm in the room with these two chicks, and they're looking at me and looking at each other like, fuck. I was like, you're getting top G tonight. Like, I don't know. Thinking, top G, top G. They were standing there for hours. We had to call the police. They're like, it's a different level of movement. And that's what they're scared of. And I also want to say this publicly to them, because I believe they are watching. I'm not the enemy to the systematic powers. I'm actually very intelligent. What you're saying earlier about Logan knowing his place, I'm not here to try and become king of Earth. I'm not here to get suicided. I'm not here to do any of that. But I do have a huge contingent of young men who believe in me. And I do understand that the things I'm teaching them are good for them. And by extension, it will be good for society. I'm not trying to take over the world, right? I'm not trying to do that because I don't want to end up in a position where I'm against the people who run the world. I'm not stupid. But their attack has failed. So now they have to sit and, if they have a brain, analyze what they're going to do next. Saint status is coming one way or another. I truly and utterly believe that. I'm already having conversations with very important people. And Rumble were the first people who stood up to me and said, you know what? We've got your back 100%, including financially. And they offered me a huge financial incentive. And I said, you know what? Don't worry about that. You keep the stocks. Don't worry about it. Because I don't need money. And when you don't need money, it also puts you in a very, very powerful position. It's very rare you find a man who has that much influence who doesn't want money. I don't want money. I believe in what you're saying. Let's do it. I believe in this. Let's do it. I don't need money. I believe it. I really believe, and perhaps you'll disagree with me because you have more money than I do. Once you get past a certain number of million, life's the same. What are you gonna buy? How many steaks can you eat? Like, I don't gamble. I don't take drugs. Like, you eat, vodka's cheap. I have my house. I have 27 cars. There ain't nothing to buy. I have diamond watches. I'm really, although I talk about making money and I talk like I'm a money-oriented person, I do that because you cannot truly escape from the matrix if you're poor because they use that as a control mechanism against you. But once you get past that, it doesn't matter if you have 50 million or 75 million. Your life's the same. 400 million, your life's the same. I don't need more money. It's not interesting to me. What's interesting to me is living a life that's true to God. I like being able to go to sleep at night knowing I'm happy with myself and who I am. I like knowing the things I say on podcasts are a good, genuine influence on the world. I like if something bad happens to me, which happens to everybody, I can go to sleep knowing that karma is going to reward me because I'm a positive influence. I don't need to sell my soul for money. This is the thing that Logan does not yet understand. He still thinks selling his soul is worth it. It's not worth it for money. I don't need money. It's not about money for me on any level. It never will be. So I do believe saint status is coming. You have a very, very powerful point. And also, this is why you have a level of power control I don't yet have, right? You have a certain status and power, you're right, that I don't yet have. But I do certainly and utterly believe it's coming just because of the feedback I've had. It's been absolutely monumental. On the day of my banning, I got 94,000 emails. 94,000 people took time out of their life to just email me support. It's insane. It's insane. They haven't tricked anybody. They've just proved me right.
You know what's the crazy thing about, in America, my dad says, if they want to see you fall in America, they'll do it. America loves seeing a personality fall. But what they love even more than that is redemption. It's a very big infatuation Americans have with that. So you think about Tyson coming out, knocking everybody, boom, he loses to Buster Douglas. Oh my gosh, Buster Douglas is, and then now he's coming back up. They want to see the new Tyson. So there's a part of anybody that's going through the momentum, the highly, highly exponential momentum, Tyson experience, your experience, it doesn't happen too often. Most people, they grow 12%, 24%, they grow. Very few go like this. Yours was exponential. But the part that's exciting, most people, you're not 55. You're not 45. You're 35, 36 years old, which means the evolution that's most exciting about watching you is, which I hope you don't take your foot off the pedal. I hope you push full throttle with the Rumble. I hope you full on keep going with your content because you're going to evolve. Something's going to happen in your life the next 5 years. You're going to evolve. Something's going to happen by the time you're 45. You're going to evolve. And then you're going to talk about different things. And some perspectives are going to change. Some perspectives are going to adapt. That's what makes the journey of the hero exciting because everybody learns as you're going through it.
Absolutely and utterly. And that's one of the most beautiful things about being human. And I was talking earlier about the redemption arc, and you mentioned earlier in my final video how I said I'm glad that this ban happened to me. And one of the reasons I was glad is because it gave me a chance to address the consciousness of the world. There were certain rumors about me which had spread like wildfire. And the unfortunate reality of the internet is if there's a rumor about you, no matter how many times you dispel it, if there's more clicks and more interest in perpetuating the rumor, that's what people are going to do. And this ban is to a degree a chance for a fresh start because it allows me to discuss all the rumors. People talked about me hitting a girl with a belt and me being a woman beater. That same woman has made 3 videos subsequently, 3, saying it was consensual, it was a long time ago, he's still a good friend of mine. But no matter how many videos she makes, right? The video of her saying this is bullshit gets 10,000 views. And the video of me being a woman beater gets millions of views. That's the nature of the internet. So you need a mass extinction event. You need something big to happen to address it. The other big thing that's against me is the fact that my house was raided by Romanian police. And people talk about me being a people trafficker. And that's a really, really interesting one. It's interesting because I actually kind of think it's a perfect storm. Some of the other things I say about accessible corruption or the fact I live in Romania, which has a bad reputation, makes people think, so he's a criminal over there and he can get away with it, etc. Let me tell you something about Romania. They have a bad reputation for a few things. And one of them is people trafficking, which is age old. That was from the 90s. It's not the case anymore, not at all. But they're very sensitive about it. The number one crime you'll get in trouble for in Romania is exactly that. It's the one thing that they're very sensitive about. It's the image of their country. They're not going to allow some guy to make their whole country look bad. It's like going to Dubai and bragging about fucking being the financial criminal or something. Like, no. That makes Dubai look bad. So that's the one thing you'll get in trouble for. I wasn't doing it. What happened was, and I've explained this at length, I was swatted. Loads of people have been swatted. Someone called the police with a fictitious story, a complete false story. We were having a party at our house. There was a bunch of girls there. My brother and I got bored, decided to go to the casino. We don't gamble heavily, but we wanted to go play poker. We went to the casino, left the party unattended. There was like 20 girls there in our PA. So there's only girls in the house. This is all on CCTV. This is the reason I'm not in jail. The girl gets a phone call. It's her boyfriend in America, somewhere in Massachusetts. I saw you on Instagram story. That's Tate's house. The girl, who's from Miami, actually flew over to meet Tristan. She messaged me on Instagram. The girl said, yeah, but I didn't want to be here. I'm trying to leave, and hung up. So her boyfriend, I don't know, simps, bro. I don't know if he believed her. I don't know if he was jealous of us. I don't know what. Calls the American embassy in Romania and said, my girlfriend's being held against her will in this house. Now, I have absolute respect for the Romanian authorities. I would hate to live in a country where they get a phone call saying a woman is kidnapped and they don't bother to do anything about it. That would be a terrible country to live in. Of course they strapped up. Of course they turned up. They were very, very respectful. They turned up. They were all strapped. They were very respectful. Andrew, because I'm known in the country. Andrew, Tristan, we've heard this report that it was a very cordial conversation. But look around the house. No one's here. We have CCTV in our whole house. They went to the cameras. They saw the girl on the phone, go out, get a pizza, come back, get an Uber home. They're like, well, this is bullshit. It's like, well, obviously it's bullshit. I was swatted. The guy effectively just made up a false reason and called him. Took us to the police station, do some paperwork. They came to the house initially to search the house at 5. By 8 p.m., we went to the police station, do some paperwork. By 8:45, we were released. That's it. No one talks about that. Tate's house was raided for human trafficking. He's a human trafficker. His house was raided for human trafficking. I have no charges. I'm not on bail. There's no criminal investigation. It's over. It's done. But the nature of the internet, Tate being a human trafficker gets clicks. Some girl lying doesn't get clicks. It's the nature of the internet. So I don't get a chance to dispel these things unless there was a mass banning event. And when I was talking to my team saying, look, we have to change the public image, we have to change the way, create certain things in the month before the ban, we were discussing how do we fix these rumors. And it's hard because especially when you have massive detractors, people who hate me don't want to tell the truth. They hate me. They just want to take anything they can get to attack me. Like I said, they can't attack my physicality or my success, so they have to attack whatever they can get. So there are people on the internet who repeat the same lie on repeat because that's all they want to say. So it was actually a blessing in disguise. So there's no people trafficking charges. I'm not a people trafficker. The woman's come forward to me many times I don't beat women. Like all these things are complete false narratives. And that's why the banning was a good thing, because it allows me to finally get everyone's attention and say, listen, calm down. I know I'm top G, but you can't just be a human trafficker and run around the world and get away with it. Like that's insanity. That's crazy.
It's almost like a fresh start, clear the air. All right, after the smoke's gone, let's see what we got.
It is. It's a fresh start. And although I don't believe my enemies and detractors are logical enough and intelligent enough and also non-emotional enough to accept it's a fallacy and simply stop saying it, what it does do is the Matrix has fired every bullet it has. It's the empty clip. They fired the he's a people trafficker thing. It's been proven false. They can no longer repeat it. They can't take the bullet back and reload the gun and shoot it again. So instead of having it as a nagging annoyance, instead of having it as the odd bow and arrow shot at me for the rest of human time, I'm glad they shot me with the M16 and it's done. And I survived, top G, here I am. And I can finally understand that it can't be repeated. It's finally gone away. If anyone listens to my content, I champion masculine, strong men who protect women. That's what I champion. I say all the time, people trying to say I'm negative and my mindsets are negative. If you call a police officer in the heat of battle, you want men brave like me. If you call a fireman, you want him to charge into a burning building. You want men with the tenets I teach. We are protectors of society. We're absolutely not the predators of society. It are the people who are my detractors, the ones I talked about, who are objectively unattractive and objectively unsuccessful. They are the predators, not successful men. I have no need to kidnap anybody. In fact, I beg them to leave my house. I'm not trying to beg them to stay. I'm like, listen, the party's up, young lady. Please go home. So it's absolute insanity, and I'm glad I can finally clear the air on that one.
You know, I'm talking to Shaq 2 weeks ago, you know, at the event, and Shaq's at the MGM Grand Arena. We're having a conversation, and I said, so tell me about your upbringing, your relationship, values, and principles that your dad taught you. And he says, my dad would tell me, if you listen to me, I'll make you the most dominant big man of all time. So your dad told you that. He told me that. Okay, what else? And all these other stories you hear about with Shaq and his dad. You know, his dad would say, finish this. He was a drill sergeant, so everything was yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. He had that kind of a dad, very much of a disciplinarian, right? Who raised him. What are some stories with your pops? You know, you obviously a lot of it has been heard, but what are some stories about your dad on how he raised you and Tristan?
Yeah, my father was, I believe, the best father on the planet. I think that every son should hopefully think the same with their father. I think a father's role is to be a superhero. I think a father's role is to, I think one of the big mistakes in modern society is that people think that a father should be a second mother, and I disagree. I think a father should be a superhero. Sometimes a superhero needs to go do superhero things. My father wasn't always home. He was away. But when he came home with a story. And I think that the quality of his presence was more important than the quantity of his presence. He raised us with absolute duty to our last name. He made it very, very clear for a very long time that being a Tate means something and that you have to live an honorable life and a life that's true to God because of that. And also his expectations to us were exceptionally high because we were Tates. When I did something fantastic, when I became state chess champion at age of 5, or when I did exceptionally well my SATs, he moved me up 2 grades, etc. I didn't come home and say, Dad, I did this, and then go, wow, good job. He was like, well, you're a Tate. Duh. Well, who are you competing against? I was like, well, the other kids at school. Who are they? Don't know. Exactly. You're a Tate, of course. So he always had this huge expectation of us and made it clear that the last name means something and we have to stay true to it. And I think that this is kind of something that's missing from modern society. When you have a duty to your bloodline and a duty to your ancestors, that is something which you carry with yourself away from cameras and away from the eyes of the outside world. So it's been something that's been massively beneficial to me. Even when I went through hard times in my life, I understood that being a Tate prevented me from doing anything that's detrimental to myself. Even basic things. We talked about, let's say, heartbreak. If I had my heart broken when I was young, instead of chasing a girl and embarrassing myself, I could sit in my room alone and think, I'm a Tate. I can't do that. I can't. That's not how Tates act. Love you very much. Goodbye. And I missed her with all my heart, but that was the game. She let her go fuck someone else and just be heartbroken a while and get over it. Because I felt a duty to my last name. So what he did exceptionally well was instill duty to the bloodline and duty to the ancestors. We understood who my family were, understood where we came from, knew who my grandfather was, my great-grandfather was, etc. And he always had very, very high expectations of me. And it's often interesting. People say, you know, if you have too high expectations on kids, it's bad for them, da-da-da. I can only talk from my personal experience. The fact that such high expectations were held for me were a massive benefit to me. My father was a disciplinarian. He was also in the Air Force. If I fucked up, he hit me. He never beat me. He never abused me. But there was certainly a realm in which if I fucked up, I get slapped. It only happened twice maybe, ever. But I knew it was an option. Twice in my life, yeah. And I say this, I said this on Twitter when I had a Twitter account. Someone was saying that hitting kids is bad. And I said, yeah, I understand. You can't abuse kids. It's a fine line. I know it's a very nuanced, detailed argument. But in the real world,
Do you think, guys,
there are lines.
you should hit or not hit your kids? What do you think? Tell me on the comments.
That if you cross, violence appears. If I get in your face as a man and start running my mouth, sooner or later, it becomes physical. That's the real world. So as an upbringing of a child, I think there should be lines that if they're crossed, violence appears. I don't see anything wrong with that. I was never abused in any way, but if I really fucked up, and both times now in hindsight, I fucked up massive. And I learned. And I was taught, oh shit, that's a line. And I think especially with young men, if there's never gonna be a physical line, What line is there? Especially with young, rebellious men. I don't know. But maybe that shaped my mindset for a long time because I always understood there are lines that if you cross, things become physical. And I've always kept that in mind for how I conduct myself. I say this all the time. Once again, I say this in YouTube videos. I don't argue with people. If I get in a disagreement on the street, I don't argue. I don't, hey, bro, you parked. That's not who I am. I'm like, okay, bro, leave it. I leave it to the last second until I feel like there's no other choice, and then it's pure violence. Because I don't see the point in arguing. That's feminine to me, a verbal argument. Like, I try my very best to de-escalate because you never know who you're fucking with. You never know if they want to go to jail. But there's a line, and it gets to that line where that's the only possible repercussion. That's all that can happen. And I try very hard to stay away from that line, but I've always been very aware that line is there. And that served me very, very well in my life. The morgue and the prison, both of them are full of egos. And because I know I can handle myself, I'm the #1 guy to talk down a fight. But once I realized that talking ain't gonna work, I'm the complete opposite. And I think that was taught by my father.
Wow.
That's how I was taught, you know. And
have you seen him fight? Did you ever see him fight?
So my father, I have a saying which is my most famous saying. I said at the end of the final video. My unmatched perspicacity coupled with sheer indefatigability makes me a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor. And for the people watching, it means unmatched perspicacity, your ability to perceive and understand the world, pay attention to things, take in all the different variables, pay attention, because a lot of people don't. Coupled with indefatigability, the ability to never become tired, makes you a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor. So if you pay attention to everything, and you analyze the chessboard correctly, and you never give up, it doesn't matter if you're trying to climb Mount Everest, it doesn't matter if you're trying to escape a social media ban. You're a dangerous guy. He doesn't quit, and he pays a bunch of attention. That's a guy you don't want as an enemy. And my father said that. I heard my father say that. The story behind it is we were in Detroit. My father was a world level chess player. He was an amazing man, but he was, to a degree, a flawed man, let's say. He liked to gamble. My father's attitude towards life is something I've also adopted, because I've even said it myself. I either want to be filthy rich or flat broke. I feel like slavery's in between. And I said to my brother when we had no money, let's just move to Thailand. Let's just move to Thailand and fight. And just live on $50 a day and just run around on the beach and have our time back. Like, what are we slaving away a job to pay the rent and then we're broke? I either have to feel like I'm going to make it or just quit capitalism.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in between. And my father was the same. So he won a chess tournament, a low level one. He made like $3,000 or something. And he said, listen, son, the rent's paid and I either want 100 grand or nothing. It's just who I am. So we went to the casino, lost all the money. Casino's a bad place to go and try and get rich, but that's my dad. Lost all the money, so then we were in Detroit and we were hustling in a park. My dad was a chess park hustler. He'd go into the parks and he'd sit down and say, you all get 10 minutes, I get a minute on the clock. And he'd play 10 games simultaneously while they all had 10 minutes each, and he'd have a minute. And he'd sit there and just smoke them all for money, right? And take all the money in. So, and we'll talk about world level chess players, because I'll make it clear, I do not have the intellect to be a world level chess player. Even though I have the genetics, it's something you're born with. It's kind of like being a human calculator. It's something in your brain. You can't train. It's like learning to sing. You can learn to sing, but you're not going to be Mariah Carey unless you're born with it, right? The way his mind worked was a different level of intellect, and I don't possess it. And that's a blessing and a curse, because I'm better socially than he was. He was not very sociable as a person. And in these high-level chess tournaments, a lot of them are not very sociable people. And we could talk about that at length, but so he made some money, and we went to a gas station in Detroit, and I remember this vividly. I was about 8 or 9 years old. I went to the back, it's the coolers. I opened to get a drink, and I heard all this noise. And when I turned around, my dad was fighting 3 men. And I don't know how the fight started. I don't know where it came from. He had one of them up against the door, and he had him up like this, and he was biting his face. And the other 2 are punching my dad in the back of the head. And I'm a kid. And I just stood there like, the fuck? And the Korean guy behind is shouting, stop, 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 stop. And I'm standing there. And I didn't know what to do, so I kind of went to walk over. And although my dad was getting punched, although he was biting this guy, I remember him turning to me and saying, stay there! And went back to biting the guy. I don't know the fuck. To this day, I don't know how the fight started. Korean guy came around the back, kind of got in the middle. The guys went out, they threatened to kill him. We're gonna fucking kill you, like gangbangers. We're gonna fucking kill you, we're gonna fuck you. My dad had blood all over his face, some from the guy, some from him. His eye was black, his eye socket got fractured, his eye was closed, his bumps all back to that. So we stood there, and the Korean guy started panicking, saying, my store damaged, my store, wait, police, wait, police, wait, police. And I think my dad was a bit disoriented. He never went down, but I could tell he was a bit dizzy. So my dad stood there, and he stood like this, like in like military position, stood in the corner of the place, and we waited for the police officer to come, and the police officer came. Like start doing reports, ask what happened, start talking to reports, etc. And the police officer said to my dad, so you fought these 3 guys. He goes, okay, well, what's your job? My dad said, I'm a chess player. And the police officer said, well, maybe you should have been something else. And my dad said, my unmatched perspicacity, coupled with sheer indefatigability, makes me a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor. I remember him saying that was his answer to the police officer. The police officer was like,
Yeah, how do you spell perspicacity?
okay, bro.
Unfatigability.
He wrote it down.
Yeah.
And that was a saying that my dad started using then on after, and I adopted. So that's the only time I ever saw him fight. And he didn't win. I mean, the guy got fucked up, but he didn't go down. I mean, he dealt with all 3 of them, and they left in the end. So that's the only time I ever.
Did you see rage in him? Like, did you know he had the rage, or no? His personality was a different personality.
No, my father certainly not really had rage. My father was a super unique individual. It's hard for me to even explain. You have to imagine a big black guy, big physically dominating, dangerous guy, who's a chess genius, but also he was extremely condescending, but I understand why he was the way he was. When you're wired like he is, everyone is a moron. And when I say he had photographic memory, everyone goes, oh, I know someone's photographic memory. No, you don't. I'm talking about, what's your phone number? Cool. 6 years later, just on a payphone. Like, it's like, how the fuck? Just everything you told him, he remembered. Everything. And that becomes a detriment, because if you remember and you pay attention, if you remember every number plate of every car around you, then you're in a car with the guy, and he's like, last Thursday, that car was beside us. Dad, was it? I don't know. Of course you don't know. You don't know, but I do know. That car was beside us next Thursday. Do you believe in coincidences? Like, well, maybe it is a coincidence. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. And then you can't argue with him, because you don't know if he's like, well, you're not smart enough to remember all the number plates, son. So you just leave this to fucking me. And then you turn off the road because this dude might be following you. And I'm not saying he was paranoid. I'm saying the world he lived in was a scary world, if that makes sense. Because he remembered everything all the time. And it also means you can't really function in society, because you can't have a job. You can't listen to anybody. You can't socialize with anybody, because everyone's a fucking moron. So he had this weird, my father got diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. And I do believe he had it, and people say I have it, but I don't. When you have true narcissistic personality disorder, you truly believe you're almost invincible. Does that make sense? Like, guns were pulled on him, and you go, you think that's going to kill me? Shoot me, you fight. And he get furious. Like, how dare you believe a weapon can kill him? He was fucking enraged. Like, that's who he was. So, yeah, he was a super interesting guy to grow up around, because it's weird to be around a dude who's so big and so strong and also so smart, and you have to just accept second place all the time. And then you're arguing about number plates on some fucking Corolla from Thursday, and you're just like...
So how did you process that? Was it I'm always going to be in this shadow, or was it I want to make him proud? Was it I still have his genes? Was it we're destined to do something big? Like, what? Because in most instances like that, it's more like, yeah, I'm just going to be his son.
Yeah.
Versus...
I love this question, guys. I love this question. It was a really good question. What do you think Andrew Tate thinks about his dad being the way it was? Maybe he's gonna say some basic answer just to the viewers, just to portray the image. What do you think? It's gonna be growing up with a dad like that, guys. It should be very tougher.
Is to come and create your own identity with that kind of a shadow.
Yeah.
That's not easy to do.
Completely. And he made it very, very clear. My father was also quite a morbid man. I think because of his life, even in his last years, he spoke all the time about, he had conversations which were, you'd be sitting at the table and he said, are you prepared for my death? And you'd just be like, wow, is that a will and testament? What are you talking about? Like, are you prepared? Like, he'd talk about dying. He'd talk about me being the oldest son. He'd talk about me having to carry the torch. He talked about this stuff a lot.
How soon did he start doing that? At what age?
When I was young, 19, 20.
Got it.
Quite young.
So he died October 17, 2015.
Correct.
So you're saying 19, so that would be your 35, 25, so 16 years ago,
Yeah.
2006.
Yeah.
So 10 years before he passed away, he's talking to you that way.
He's talking about death. He's talking about what that's going to mean. He's talking about how I have to carry the family torch. He's talking about my responsibilities and duties. He's talking about the fact that I need to evolve and be a better version of him. He talked about these things a lot. Now, he also used to, till the day I was an adult, he still had a superior complex over me, and I respect it. My dad used to say things like, "Oh, you're champion now. You know, there's probably only one man left who could whoop your ass." That's who he was, right? He still believed he could beat me.
You gotta love that, though.
Yeah, he still believed he could beat me. That's who he was. He's like, "Nah, you may be champ, but there's one man left who could whoop your ass, son." And that's who he was. And I had so much respect for him. I was like, yeah, because, you know, you're right. So that's just how he was as an individual. But I think it's the opposite. He set such a high standard in certain regards that I knew I couldn't just be some normal guy. I'd feel guilt. I'd feel dirty if I was just some normal dude. Like, I can't just be, I'm his son. You know, like in the old movies when you watch Conan, they say, Tate, the son of...
Do you think Andrew Tate only changed after his father started to tell them that those last 10 years, maybe inculcate something? Because growing up as a child with his dad, I don't know if he grew up being like that, or in the end, after he made 20 years and start to talk about that, maybe then he was for sure, how can I say, was then realizing that all that suffer was to make him grow as a man. Maybe only after his father started talking about that and carrying the torch, as he says, maybe then you realize then you have to change, because I don't think he has the same mindset as he has on his 20s. Not most likely.
I was always the son of Emery Tate, even at the chess tournaments. This is the son of Tate, the son of, the son of, the son of. The expectation was there, and instead of it preventing me from creating my own identity, I was actually the opposite. Okay, I have to be fantastic. And I was cerebral enough. I said to my dad, look, I can't be as good at chess as you can. I don't think I can do this. And they say, well, you could, but belief is a huge part of it. So if you don't believe you can, then what else are you going to do? Because I remember telling him I didn't want to play chess anymore. He said, that's fine, but you're not going to not play chess and fucking watch TV. You play chess for 6 hours a day, so you need to come to me with a plan for 6 hours a day, son. What are you going to do with your life? And I chose fighting because I said, listen, chess is one-on-one competition without luck, without a team, no ball, no wind to blow the ball in the net. What if I fight? I said, okay, I respect that. You can be a fighter. So he wasn't trying to force me to do anything, but he was a very regimented individual, and that's who he was. And I had so much respect for him, and he was my superhero. I wanted to be like my dad. And even from a very young age, even if you were to Google up my dad, Emery Tate, and look in the chess community, they called him E.T. for Emery Tate, but also E.T. like the alien because he was a bit strange. But the way he played chess was so unorthodox that sometimes he had some spectacular losses, but sometimes he had some spectacular victories against some of the top players in the world. So everyone was scared of him because he played with such recklessness that he was like, it was blitzkrieg. If you get through it, you survive, you get to beat him. But when it's coming hard and the heat's on, he destroyed some grandmasters so badly that they took like a year away from tournaments, like genuine embarrassment.
Never seen.
That's how he played. So nobody wanted to play my father because it was a risk, right? Because he's only top 200 in the world, but he's smoking top 10. Sometimes he loses, but sometimes he'll fucking take your head off. So he was an anomaly. So whenever I went to a chess tournament, they're like, Tate's here, Tate's here. There's always the rumbles and Tate's here, Tate's here, Tate's here. So the name was always feared. And I think that was part of it for me. I wanted, when I turned up to a fight event, Tate's here, Tate's here. I want my name to mean something, right? I want it to mean something and that was always very important to me. And I was just told, look, you want your name to matter, then you have to go make it matter.
guys, I'm back. Whoever is on the stream, I'm back. Fresquitos, if you are there, if that's you, come play CSGO.
It's not going to matter by default. And if you have good parents, and some hardship and some trauma, I think any man can become anything they want to be.
How did he bring the two of you guys together? Like, what would he say? It's three of you. It's you, your brother, and your sister. What would he say to keep you guys together? Was it, hey, you guys can never backstab each other. You guys can never do, like when the whole example we given with Logan and Jake to you, that doesn't make any sense. Correct. What did he say to unify the two of you guys or the three of you guys?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. He was very, very focused on my brother and I's relationship and making sure we're close. And he just made it clear that as you excel in life, you're going to have a lot of enemies. And if you can't rely on your brother, you can't rely on it. And even when we were kids and we would argue, I remember one time we were arguing over Lego, dumb shit. And we were in the dining room, and we're arguing over Lego, and my brother ran in there and said, Andrew stole the Legos, da-da-da. And he said, I don't have time for this bullshit arguing over fucking Legos. And my brother was crying because we'd had a little fight, and I'd hit him or whatever. And he put us in the dining room. He said, you're both staying in this room in fucking silence for 2 hours straight. If I hear a noise, I'm starting the timer. Sit here. And we're both scared to get hit from him, right? So we're like, shit. So we sit there. And we're sitting there looking at each other, two 10 and 8-year-olds, crying, angry at each other. And as soon as one of us would like move on the seat, he'd say, I'm starting again. And after 2 hours of sitting in perfect silence, it got to the point where me and Tristan learned, just don't argue around Dad, because you're going to end up just sitting in silence, staring at each other in the face, just sitting there. So we just didn't argue around Dad anymore. And then by extension, Mom was like, I'll tell your dad. So it was like, oh shit. And then we just stopped arguing completely. Me and my brother have not had a serious argument in years.
Gotta love it.
Well, if we disagree,
wow.
We'll like, okay, we disagree, da-da-da. It'll be 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Sure.
But we'll never, ever argue. We share everything. We live in the same house. All the cars we share, bank accounts, like, besides living in underwear, you name it. We share absolutely everything from head to toe. We never, ever, ever argue. And another key to that relationship is Tristan accepting I'm the older brother. That is a big key to it. Tristan will accept.
Older or alpha? There's a difference.
It is a difference, but I also think if we ever do truly contest, he will say, okay, well, it's 50-50, and I might pull out this card once a year if that, but you're the older brother. So there still is that older brother
Meaning
thing.
he knows you're the alpha.
I think so, yeah. I think he knows, well, you're the big brother. You're the older one, so thing. So if we're ever 50-50 on a call, I'm the older brother, so that's it. But I also, unlike a social media company, know when to use my power.
Do you agree with that?
I also know when to concede, when to say, you know what, okay, you know more about this, or you know more about that, or you care about this more than I care. I don't give a shit, whatever. But very rarely I can pull that card. But he was very, very interested in creating that relationship and making it very, very clear to us that as my father lived in a combative world where he was surrounded by enemies in his mind, whether it's a Corolla with a license plate, whether it's people trying to kill him, whether whatever, the KGB agent at the chess tournament who threatened him in Russian. My father was fluent in Russian. He always had enemies, and he was actually attacked and very badly hurt in Budapest in 1998. He played in a chess tournament. He beat a Russian grandmaster, and then he was jumped and beaten in the subway, had been hospitalized, and he killed him in a subway in Budapest in 1998. He believed it was a hit from the KGB, but the guy was an ex-KGB guy. I personally think he just beat an ex-KGB guy and pissed him off. Wrong place, wrong time. Eastern Europe was different in the 90s. They hurt him bad. So he lived in a very combative world, and in his world it was, Andrew, they're gonna come for you. You're a Tate, they're gonna come for you like they came for me. And if you haven't got Tristan, you haven't got anybody. And he always taught us.
Combative or paranoid?
And that's the thing, you're paranoid until you're right. You can be paranoid for 20 long years, and then it goes down. So it's hard to once again say. It's also, again, like when I talk about my father, we talk about, let's say, the number plate things. Was this person following them? No. But that's his world. Your mind is your world. If in your world, we talked about believing in things that give and giving it power. If you believe you're being followed, you're effectively being followed. Like, what's the difference, right? So he was paranoid, but he was reacting to the reality he lived. And that was who he was. And he had enough unfortunate incidents involving pure violence to know that the world can get violent quickly. And this is the difference between fighting and violence. We talk about this all the time. People say, oh, Tate, but you're a fighter. And I say, listen, I grew up in a world of violence. And even to this day, I know some very, very violent people. And there's a massive difference between fighting and violence. I've seen genuine violence. It's an ugly thing. Like, if I'm a fighter, right? But if I had a real beef with someone, let's say they killed a member of my family, I wouldn't be trying to fight that. I'd be aiming to be violent. An SUV on a pavement is violent. 10 dudes with a machete is violent. Like, violence is violence is when you don't allow any chance of victory for the opponent. Violence is there's no competition involved. Violence is just pure attack. And my father's been subject to that, and he survived it. But he's seen how it works, and he's just made it very clear. Andrew and Tristan, your best hope is together. You can't do it apart. You can't do it separate. And this is also, I think, a lot of our mentality, even to simple things like girlfriends.
I agree with that. Right?
Because a lot of brothers, they get different girlfriends, and they move in with their different girlfriends, and their girlfriend doesn't want them hanging around with their brother because they're too busy having fun getting girls, and all this kind of shit. And to a degree, your relationship with females can attack your power dynamic of your brothers. But me and my brother never allowed that. If I sat with a girl and she said, "Oh, your brothers, I don't like your brother," I said, "Listen, you better learn. You can learn, or you can leave his house. This is your house. This is our house. You can choose. You like the Tate brother. You like me, obviously romantically, but you like him. He's your best friend. Or you can leave this house." And some girls have left. That's fine. But we've always allowed nothing to get in between us. And I think even if I analyze the Paul brothers, Jake and Logan, I think if you look at their podcasts carefully, they talk about like some girlfriend, they both fuck the same girl and all this stupid shit. But like, he's your brother, bro. Fucking some girl. She's forgot about both of you. It's crazy. You gotta have that blood bond. And I think in many other cultures in the world, this is more common. Like, I grew up in Luton, which is it's England, but it's a very, very Muslim town. And all the gangsters and dangerous people, and even the most successful businessmen, all of them, when I was in college, were Muslim guys. And I was like, "Hey guys, what's your fucking secret? How are you doing this? You work in a chicken and chip shop, a fast food restaurant, and you're pushing a Lambo. How?" He's like, "Well, I have 9 brothers." I was like, "Yeah, but what does that mean?" He goes, "No, because when you used to call me white, when you white boys have 9 brothers, you all get 9 girlfriends and go pay 9 different rents. When I have 9 brothers, that means 9 women move into the family house, they all cook and provide, and us 9 men go make money and we pool our family incomes. How can we not have a Lamborghini and own the house we're in and the house you're renting?" It's a different mentality.
How much did the Muslim religion have influence over you?
I think that I have so much respect for it, because I respect anybody who says what they mean and means what they say, and I feel like they're the only religion who do. I feel like every other religion is so wishy-washy that it doesn't mean anything. I don't believe in ignoring the tenets of your own religion for acceptance or for mainstream news to like you. Then what do you have? They say what they mean what they say. And primarily they focus on family and their own. And I have to absolutely respect that. And like I said, I grew up around these huge Muslim families where all of them had pretty unremarkable jobs, and they still had property portfolios and supercars. And I was just like, okay, that's the power of brotherhood. That's all it is. I only had 1 brother. I wish I had 10. Imagine there was 10 Tate brothers.
Oh no, I don't think we're ready for that.
So imagine the world then.
Can I ask you a question about
Sure.
your father? I don't know if anyone's asked you. I don't know how spiritual you are. I know you said you're a man of God.
Yeah.
I don't know if you believe your father looking down on you. Yeah. You said that he had a narcissistic complex. That even when you became world champion at 18, it's like, you got one other dude to whoop your ass, Andrew. If he could talk to you now and see what you're going through. All the highs, the lows, the money, the women, the cars, the this, the that, the banning, all that. What do you think your father would say to you right now? And what do you think he would say to your brother?
That's a really good question. I don't think he would comment so much on what's happening to me more than he'd comment on how I'm handling it, which has also been a massive source of strength for me. Like, if he were to come back to life for a day, I don't think we'd waste much time talking about the Matrix and why they're doing it. I think he already had an innate understanding of that because of how he lived his life and how he was attacked. He already understands all of it. It would just be how I am dealing with it personally and how I'm using it to my advantage. The moves on the chessboard. And once again, when I was saying before about using your last name and the duty to it as a massive source of power, that's been a massive source of power to me my whole life and during this experience. Like, they've attacked me from every angle. They've tried to destroy me from every angle. I'm a Tate. This is going to backfire. They pushed that pawn, and I'm about to fucking wreck them. That's just who I am, right? So I think he'd be far more happy with how we've handled it as opposed to commenting on what's actually happened. And my father was very, very family oriented. The other thing he'd be very, very big about is talking about me and my brother and making sure that we have progeny and raising them correctly. He made it very clear to me for a very long time, the most important thing you can do is have children. It's the most important thing you can do. The rest of it, it's the link to the, he told us that. He said, in fact, on his own Twitter account, my father's not banned from Twitter. He stopped tweeting in 2014, maybe. Tate Terrific on Twitter. You can look him up right now. He has a few tweets on Twitter. Obviously, he's dead. The account's dormant. It's all there. Tate Terrific. And one of his tweets is, "Love is my link to the future. I have 3 kids. If I could live forever, I would deny it. The better versions of myself already walk here." That's what he said. He said that before he died. So he has all his tweets. And still to this day, sometimes I'll go back and read some of his tweets. And it gives me inspiration. I'll give you another one he said. I read only a few days ago because I read through his Twitter account sometimes. He said, "I allow manipulation to see where my enemy wants me to go. Then I use my mind to break the trap and punish all perpetrators." And I like that. So he'll watch the news. I used to see my dad watch the news, allow the manipulation, watch it all, turn it off and say, "Son, this is bullshit." And he'd sit there and dissect it all from head to toe. So he'd allow manipulation. He wouldn't deny it. He wouldn't say, "No, don't come at me with bullshit." He'd say, "Oh, you have a bullshit story. Come tell me your bullshit story. Come tell me."
He would say, "Don't watch the news. It's all
He'd say,
bullshit."
"No, tell me.
Embrace it,
And then he'd
watch
use
it,
his
and then-
mind to break the trap and punish the perpetrators. So he was very understanding of this, and a lot of his tweets are good for these kind of things. He was saying, allow them to attempt to manipulate you. It's no problem. Another thing he says, one of the things I said earlier in this podcast was his. You must analyze every firmly held belief you have, realize where it came from, who gave it to you, and if they have your best interests at heart, resist the slave mind. He said all this stuff, so I'll tweet it out. So yeah, he's still alive to a degree, you know. So whether he's watching or not, on one of my Instagram posts, which got deleted, there was a Povetkin, the boxer. It was a interaction in his corner of the 11th round of a title fight for Povetkin in the early 2000s, and his corner was saying, "Do you miss your father?" And you say, "Yes, I miss my father." He goes, "If you become champion, he lives forever." And he's right. If you become remarkable enough as a man, they talk about your origin story, which is your father. So it is my duty to my father to be the man I am.
Totally.
No one would be talking about my dad, maybe in chess circles, but no one would be talking about my dad in mainstream consciousness if I wasn't who I am.
No doubt.
So I keep him alive.
Yeah.
And it is my son's duty to do exactly that for me, to keep me alive. The man who got banned and broke social media big tech monopoly. Mm-hmm. This is my son's job. So this is what's so important. He lives forever through me.
Yeah.
And he'll live through it and I will live forever through my son, and that's the beautiful thing about life.
Can I tell you something about Pat? I don't know how much you know, but there's a lot of similarities in your guys' story, right? His biggest influence, his biggest hero in his life, no doubt, is your father. No doubt. And you have a deep sense of history. You also have a deep sense of the bloodline and legacy, you know, past, present, future. That's a clear understanding about you. Pat, you have a similar thing, man. You talk about the Bet David in this house. The Bet Davids, the Bet David, the last name of this. It almost like shapes greatness. My father, I was like, dude, I'm trying to be the exact opposite of you. I had a very tumultuous relationship with my dad. Yeah. But a lot of the story that Andrew's saying, you must identify within yourself.
No question about it. Like the whole Bet David, the Tate part where Tates were just, the other day we're walking with Dylan. Dylan's my 8-year-old. And I said, "Dylan, you realize we have the most powerful last name in the world?" And he says, "Yeah, I know." 30 seconds later, he's not saying anything. He says, "Daddy, how do you know that?" I says, "That's all that matters, that you believe it. You just have to believe it. He says, as long as you do, you're squared away." He says, "I believe it." I said, "That's all that matters. You're Bet David." So I understand what your dad was doing with you. But let me ask this.
Sure.
So I run a sales company, and my style of teaching works with, it used to work only with one type of personality.
Yeah.
And I realized I'm one-dimensional. Then I went to adjust because I was only attracting single guys that don't have any kids and they're 18 to 25 years old.
Yep.
And I said, no, I'm selling insurance. I got to be able to adjust and, relate to the married man.
Yep.
So then that it opened up, and it was 3 different ways of communicating with 3 different audiences.
Absolutely.
Then it goes 5, 7. So now you become multidimensional.
Absolutely.
Did your dad's messaging resonate with your sister? Because your sister is a lawyer. She also is successful.
Yeah.
How did she receive his messaging?
Yeah, my sister is very successful. She is a lawyer, and I do think it resonated to a degree. However, I think my father's worldview was so primal and so based in many things which have a masculine edge, like threats and violence and enemies and things that women don't truly consider, that I think his teaching style was far more akin to men. And even, I think that's just how he was. I think that it's easier for a man to adopt it. I don't think that many women, and I don't want to be labeled a misogynist, it's just my worldview. I don't think many women have a true, because it's not their job to be to some degree, they feel like men should protect them. To some degree, most of them, I don't feel like they have a true
So bad
akin
when you
to
have to-
threats. Sometimes
To think what you're,
I give a million different examples,
what
but
you're saying.
if I go on a date with a girl in a
You
restaurant,
don't be.
the first thing she wants to do is put on Instagram instant. I'm like, no, whoa. You can't, we're here now. Like, you can't be putting that we're on in this restaurant with the napkin and that's how they kill Pop Smoke. Like, calm down. But it doesn't consider their mind there's a threat, or that many women don't accept that there are groups of men right now sitting in rooms, scrolling social media, looking for someone to get. Looking for someone to get. They're just sitting, 10 brothers from fuck knows where, sitting there just going, that was 10 minutes ago, this tag. Oh, Mr. Bugatti.
Yeah. Tate's in Miami at
Well,
the club right now.
It's real. It doesn't really cross female consciousness sometimes. And I understand why, because I think if a woman knew how dangerous the world is, she wouldn't leave the house. So it's easier just to not look at that world. But the way my dad taught and the things he said, it resonated with me and my brother more than it would resonate with my sister. My sister's still very, very successful in her own way, and she's married now, and she's a kid, etc. And she has her own man, etc. But also, I think when a woman gets married, she takes influence from the man she marries. Lots of different things, but my biggest male influence was my father, always will be. There'll be no one else who can
Well, you
replace
agree
it.
your sister should take the influence
Completely.
from her husband.
Completely. If that's the man she wants to be, and she wants her son to replicate the man she's had a kid with, then yeah, she absolutely should take his influence. I completely respect that and understand it. But my biggest male influence in my life will always be my father. It can never be replicated or replaced, whereas hers possibly could.
Tristan's your best friend, brother, business partner, the whole thing.
Everything.
What would you describe your sister as?
My
Just
sister's
your sister?
Yeah, my sister's my sister, yeah. And I wish her the absolute best. I have nothing bad to say about her. I wish her the absolute best. But the bond me and my brother have, I don't want to say this in any kind of negative way. I don't feel like I couldn't live with my sister full time, like in a same house, talking about, like it just wouldn't be, it'd be weird. I don't know why. I always think there's going to be some degree of disconnect just because of the gender. If someone hurt her, I'd be the first person to be there and help her, of course. But she belongs to her man now. They're married, they're happy, they're in love, they have a child. And she has a degree of separate life. Whereas me and my brother's lives will always be interconnected to the end.
How do you get along with her husband?
Yeah, he's a good guy. Yeah, he's a really nice guy. Yeah, he has nothing bad to say about me, funnily enough. doesn't want smoke. Nah, he's all right. He's all right.
We don't want him to end up like Tony.
Yeah. What'd you say?
But you know what it is, though? The whole point is, one, the person has to want to receive the message. Two, the person selling the message, the messenger messaging may only relate to a certain audience. It may not relate to everybody. It's not easy. This messaging that your dad's teaching, your dad taught, this is not a popular messaging where it's like, you know, Jordan talks about in Last Dance. He says, if it wasn't for his dad, he wouldn't be who he is. If it wasn't for his brother, he wouldn't be who he is today, right? There's a scene where his dad's like, whatever, Michael, just go, listen, man, you're not a man. You go out there and just play with your toys. We're going to go out there and fix some things. Yeah. And Jordan says, when you're going through it, it's psychological torture when someone's doing that to you. Yeah. Like your dad is doing that to you, he's challenging you. Yeah. But he obviously responded to it. He became an assassin in the game of basketball because he received it. Correct. But the individual has to receive it as well.
The individual has to receive it. And also, but I think the modern world's changed because there's a lot more opposite programming to your parents than there used to be. I used to go to school, finish school, come home, play chess. I was never really allowed to really watch too much TV. I didn't play Nintendo too much. I played chess. That was it. That's all I really did. So besides the school teacher and the little bit of school I had, I didn't have too much outside programming from the matrix itself. But nowadays, when you're raising a child, it's far more scary because you're trying to teach them things. That's fine. But YouTube's trying to teach them something else. And Netflix trying to teach them something else. And school is trying to teach them something else more than ever before. And on top of that, if you're not a wealthy individual, your wife now has to go to work, right? Because you have two incomes to pay the bills. So your children are not even at home with the mother or the woman who adopts with your ideals, because otherwise you wouldn't be together. Now they belong to the state effectively in many different ways. The school raises them, then an aftercare program, then internet raises them. So now you have a very difficult job. And you'll see, even if you look at YouTube now, children disagreeing with their own parents about certain issues, no matter what they are, so topical issues, politics, LGBT, whatever. The parents will say, no, that's not true. Well, I heard in school it's true, because they spend more time inside the matrix than they do with their own parents now. And it's very, very difficult now as a parent to get that hard time with your kid and say, resist that. I want you to be this way. It was easier when I was raised. Now that's scary. I think it's a very, very difficult job parents have now because of that. Because the programming is exceptionally strong because it's entertaining, right? and we've all developed ADHD, and we're all glued to social media and addicted to our phones, and things are coming through the phone. And that's the argument they tried to use to ban me. I argue that I'm a positive force, and there's far more negative forces than me on the internet, which are trying to infect the children, than I am. That's the argument I have. I'd argue that I'm the complete opposite to it. But yeah, it's a scary world now. It's scary to have a
I have a simple question for you, but it's actually very deep. Because you'll understand where I'm going with this. How many times have you seen the movie The Matrix? Because this is a major theme of yours.
Yes.
And Pat, I don't want to let the cat out the bag. You just saw it for the first time
2
on the
days
flight
ago.
here.
Yeah.
Okay? So how many times have you seen The Matrix?
15, 20?
15. This has a major influence in your life, this
Correct.
concept,
Correct.
right?
It's an easy way for me to express in a few words how I view the world works. I've adopted something from popular culture, and I've adapted it to try and quickly explain. If I try and sit and explain that most people are being used for their resource,
Yeah.
they're being projected a reality that isn't true, they're convinced of things that aren't true, they're promised that if they slave away hard enough, at the end you'll retire, at the end it'll be good, which is a lie, and they're just used for their resource until they die. To get into that and explain that at length is difficult. But if I say you're inside of the Matrix and they've seen the movie, they're like, what do you mean? Inside the Matrix, you're living inside of a projected reality, and your body heat is being extracted in real time from the machine. That's what's happening. You're like, I don't understand. You'll understand once you break free. How do I break free? You break free when you can talk freely. This is the thing that's amazing. And I talk a lot about money, but I'm not that financially driven. I just understand if you don't have money, you can't have an opinion. You can't say what you think. You can't do what you're not told to do, because then you can't pay the mortgage. If they say wear a mask to come to work, even no matter how much you know that mask is fruitless, you must pay the bills. You must comply. That's the Matrix. You have no force but to comply. It's only when you get to a point of money where you can say, no, my principles are worth losing X million. That's when you can escape the Matrix. Money is a primary motivator to escape. I've always been interested in freedom more than money. It's not about having nice things. It's about having freedom of mind and freedom of thought and freedom and autonomy over my own body. That requires money.
1 hour and 20.
Or it requires the complete opposite, like I said earlier. It's either no money, living on the street, or a lot of money. Anywhere in between, you're controlled. But if you ain't got shit and you're on the beach, wear a mask, get fucked. Get fucked. You're gonna take my house, I ain't got one. No.
So when did
Give
you...
me a fine,
Sure.
go on then. Like, I ain't got any money. Like, so that's the only way you escape. You escape through extreme poverty or you escape through wealth. And I was prepared to take either route. I was prepared to take either one.
I want to go to that topic, but I want to finish up the family thing, and then we'll go there, because that's a big part of. Look, there's a lot of interesting people to psychoanalyze.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've sat with a lot of people that try to psychoanalyze you and go through it.
Yeah.
A lot of them. Most important person I psychoanalyze is myself all the time.
Absolutely.
One time I sat down, I had a list of 83 questions that was given to me, and one of the questions was, who annoys you the most? Why? Who do you get along with the most? Why? Who do you not get along the most? Why? And then I'm at the beach, I'm going through this question, I'm like, holy shit. Then you notice a trend. Like, no wonder I don't get along with people like this, because you remind me of this.
Yeah.
No wonder I get along with you, because you bring a certain level of safety.
Yeah.
No wonder I'm okay in these types of chaotic situations,
Yeah.
because I feel peaceful in chaotic situations. No wonder I'm scared shitless and paranoid when things are too peaceful, because I've not lived in this kind of a situation.
Yeah.
So then you're like, okay, now I understand who you are, guy. Now let me live with you. It's kind of like you're, living with yourself. So influence of that over you, what positive or negative influence? You talk about your dad, you said women, what was it, booze, gambling, right? You talk about that. We also talk about the positive influence of that. What positive or negative influence did mom have over you?
Yeah, so my mother was fantastic. She was an amazing mother. I don't know if I can talk about positive and negatives. My mother was very much subservient to my father, which was a good thing. They used to have arguments, etc. And I think I learned a lot of my lessons, I guess, on male-female dynamics to a degree from my childhood. Like, I remember one time my father was away at a chess tournament for a month and a half. He was away for a really long time. He was at a chess tournament, playing chess all over the country. Came back after a month and a half. Within 45 minutes, him and my mom are arguing. I think she found something in his pocket, a phone number, so I don't know what it was. Started arguing. We just walked in the house. I started arguing, and he came down to me and said, son, give me a hug. Gave him a hug. He goes, all right, see you in a few weeks. I was like, where are you going? He goes, when you're older, you'll understand. Your mother won't shut up. Walked out the door. I didn't see him again for 2 weeks. That's who he was. Like, come home? Oh, you want to, fuck this, fuck.
When
That's how he
you
was as a man,
will
right? So
understand.
I learned, I'm not saying that I'm that way, but this is my childhood, right? I saw it. But my mother was quite subservient to my father. My father was certainly a disciplinarian. He was certainly the man who's in charge of the house. My mother did her job fantastically. She taught us how to read. She fed us very well. She made sure we ate good. And my dad's basic tenet was, your mother is in charge of keeping you alive. Food, go to bed on time, eat good, go to school, da-da. She's in charge of keeping you alive. But I'm in charge of teaching you how to be a man and conquer the world. So we have different roles. So she's going to keep you alive. I'm going to turn up when I turn up. I'm going to teach you some shit.
I'm going to teach you how to live.
I'm going to teach you how to live. And they're different things. So they had very clear defined roles. To this day, my mother, she's still alive. I've retired her completely. So the first thing I did when I got rich was retire my mother. First thing I did, because my mother was when they broke up. So the sad story of my father, which I've never told, but I'll tell it now. My father was in the Air Force. He discharged. After they diagnosed him with narcissistic personality disorder, they offered him a full military pension, $6,000 or $7,000 a month, saying that, you have this mental disorder, we'll give it to you because you were such a fantastic member of the Air Force. My dad was actually in intelligence. Some right-wing people on the internet think I'm a CIA plant because my father was with intelligence. I'm not a CIA plant. But my father was in intelligence. So when my father joined the Air Force, he got on the bus, like everyone else did back then in Alabama, got on the bus, you go, you do an IQ test. My father did so good, they moved him to intelligence. And my father, to this day, still holds, I believe. At the time of his death, he still held it. Fastest assimilation of a foreign language. So back in the 80s and 90s, if they needed someone who speaks Russian, they'd train a native English or American person. Nowadays, you can get an Estonian or a Latvian because they're pro-EU and they speak Russian fluently. It's easy. Back then, you needed a Russian speaker. You'd teach them. So they taught my dad Russian. He learned Russian fluently in 15 days, head to toe. So he held the fastest assimilation of the Russian language. I know that because when he died, I got a message on Facebook, Meta. I got a message on Facebook from a guy who I never heard of, just saying, hi, you don't know who I am. I was in the Air Force with your father. I heard of his passing. I just want to let you know that I was in the same place as your father. I was a linguist also for the Air Force. At the time, I was living with a Russian woman, and we spoke Russian fluently in the house. And your father and I started classes at the same time, and I can say with certainty the way your father learned things was inhuman. It was robotic. Within 3 weeks, he was correcting me on my Russian. Like he was, that's who he was, right? So he spoke Russian and Spanish and German. We were also in Berlin at the fall of the Berlin Wall. So he did a lot of things. So he was a linguist. So he used to listen to the bugs. If they bugged a room, he'd listen to the bug in Russian and translate it. So that's what my father did. But anyway, when they discharged him, they said he had narcissistic personality disorder. And the reason they said he had that is because he refused to listen to one of his commanders. I don't know the exact story, so I don't want to say it on tape, but he refused to listen to one of his commanders about a recording on a tape. And my father was arguing with him about the translation of a certain word. My father believed it was slang for something else. Superior believed it was something else. They got into a personal beef. It developed over months and months and months of arguments about translations. And eventually, my dad ended up being told to sweep outside for 8 hours a day. And I got to the point where my father got discharged. So when they discharged him, they diagnosed him with narcissistic personality disorder because they said he wouldn't listen. And they offered him this military pension, and he refused it. He said, my sanity is not for sale. And I know that line because my mother used to scream all the time when we were broke in the house. You could have had money, Emery. My sanity's not for sale. Because we went broke. Because now we went broke. Now we went broke, right? So I remember them arguing, Emery, we could have had money, now we're broke. So because he became a professional chess player, he couldn't pay the bills, and we were living in Indiana and South Chicago. We were in the ghetto with no money. So I remember him saying that all the time. So eventually, my mother was English. We decided to move back to England because England has social housing. You get free house and you get benefits and that kind of thing. We moved back, and my father stayed there. So I didn't see my father very much from the time I moved. But my mother was always in charge of keeping me alive, and he was just in charge of giving me the lessons and stuff. So yeah, it was an interesting life. But he was a super principled man. He turned down money. What was actually interesting towards the end of his life, about 3 or 4 years before he died. No, it must have been way before that because I didn't have money yet. Maybe 10 years before he died, he called me and said, I've been principled for so long and the way the world's turning and what American government's doing. And maybe I should have just signed. Or do you think I should have just signed? He didn't say maybe. He said, do you think I should have just signed? I said, no, Dad, no. You get to live with a pure heart. You shouldn't just sign. Your mother's saying that I should just sign it now because I get back pay.
Sign what exactly?
Sign the narcissistic personality disorder, sell his sanity, and get back pay, which at the time would be like $500,000. And I should
By the way, just so you know, a lot of people signed it. A lot of military. I mean, you know, people who got out, you signed, you get all this incredible pension, back pay.
And why do they want you to sign this? Why do they want his father to sign this?
They wanted to sign it because he admits fault. It's all your fault. You're wrong about everything. You're a psycho. Your sanity is for sale. You sell your sanity for $5,000 a month.
Your disability is for
your
sale.
Disability, yeah.
Yeah.
So he found out that he could get back pay if he signed it. So he had a long conversation with me, and I said, look, Dad, I think you did the right thing. I'm so proud of you. And we talked back and forth. He said, you know what? Your mother, this is the time we didn't have money. Your mother is a dinner lady. My mother was a dinner lady at this point. After we moved to England, we had some things, but she was a dinner lady. She got like $400 a month for cleaning plates. She had arthritis. She was starting to get bad knee from standing up all day. Because, you know, I'm not even with her anymore. She calls me so many headaches, but I can't let her just wash dishes, son. I might just sign it. I was like, well, Dad, the choice is yours. My dad agreed. He goes, look, I'm running out of time anyway. I'm running out of life. I taught you boys a lesson. You know what? He went to sign it. He went to the military to try and sign it for the back pay. They declined it. He said, you're not crazy anymore. No, wouldn't give him money. Funny that. So let's talk about, that's another story. So when he died, I still didn't have that much money. But then after he died, luckily I started to make money about a year, 2 years later. And because he tried to retire my mother, obviously I also have an own debt to my mother. The first thing I did when I made money was retire my mother. So I'd say to this day, about 15 to 20% of my income goes to my mother. And she has panic attacks. Like she'll check her bank and be like, what is it? This is too much money. I can't buy it. She's like scared of it. I'm like, just buy a Lambo. Chill. It's fine. So I make sure she's super well
Mommy Tate in the Lambo riding down the street.
Yeah.
What's up, bitches?
So she's running around the world on these cruises and shit. So I retired my mother because that was one of my dad's last attempts at appeasing her. So yeah, she's retired. So I have a really good relationship with my mother, but my mother has absolute trust in me. Like, my mother just calls me and goes, even during this shitstorm, she goes, Andrew, they're really coming for you. I know you know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm like, stay on the cruise ship, Mom. Don't worry about it. I got it. So she's not like above me. It's hard to explain. She looks up to me. She's like,
totally.
you fix it.
Of course, you're the leader of the household. But, you know, an interview was done with Bill Clinton. I'm reading this book called, not First Rate Madness, it's the other one, Hypomanic Edge. And Bill Clinton's mom was bipolar. And one of the things he finally said is this interviewer is trying to get information on his mom. And he knows that the mom has issues and they're going back and forth. He finally says, look, there's zero benefit for me saying anything bad about my mom.
Yep.
A daughter can say it. A son cannot say it.
Yep.
There's zero benefit of saying anything bad about your mom coming from the son, which there's a lot of depth in that messaging with Bill Clinton. But I want to transition to the next part with values and principles, because to me, you know, certain things I'm paranoid about, or whatever word you want to call it. My wife's like, what's the big deal with that? Or what's this? You know, you're always thinking somebody's after you because of life you lived. I'm like, listen, unless you really fully understand a life a person's lived, you're not going to know why they're wired the way they are. Correct. You know, you're recreating yourself constantly, but there's also the life you've seen. This is the life you've seen. We've not seen the life you and Tristan have seen. Correct. But when I watch you, I'm like, okay, strong personality, high self-confidence, comfortable in his own skin, BMF, badass, great communicator, charming, charismatic, persuasive, all this stuff. Stuff he says about women, 5 wives, all, you know, playing around, constant, all this stuff. But I feel a strong level of conviction in traditional values, in conservative values. And then I'm listening to you, I'm like, okay, so I grew up with certain men that have influence over me. Hey, why do you interview all these mobsters? I grew up watching Godfather 2 and Goodfellas and, you know, all the, and there's certain things amongst them that I really respect. Forget about the stuff about, you know, the murder, the killing, set that aside. But certain code they had that they worked together with, it kept things safe. So this is why we like watching Casino. We like watching Godfather. We like watching this. You ask any Fortune 500 CEO, half of them are going to say, what's the movie that influenced you the most? Godfather 2. Godfather 2. Godfather 2. As much as we're like, well, not in real life, but in it will be fine, but not in real life. But where's the conservative, strong values that you have? Again, this to the average person watching and say, what the hell are you talking about? This is the same guy that talks about women shouldn't drive, women not this, women not this. I feel like it's there. I feel like sometimes you don't fully bring it out. I feel like it's almost like, you know, the saying, I worked with a leader for many years who the saying was, never show hurt. We never show hurt. You never show hurt. You never show hurt. Never show hurt. You never show hurt. And you're like, never show hurt. I'm never freaking showing hurt. Hell no, I'm not showing hurt, because I'm not going to let you have one in over me to vulnerable and then you use that to get something out of me. I'm not freaking doing that to you. Never show hurt. Never show hurt. And then the other side is, but if people are going to really know who you are, you got to show a little bit of vulnerability for people to know who you are. For you, values, principles, deep down inside, traditional, is it real or is it just a pure, confusion I have here with my, understanding of you?
No, it's absolutely and utterly real. And I think that it is based in the natural, I think it's a natural tendency to be conservatively minded if you are masculine and also if you are competent. I feel like a lot of my traditional masculine values just come from my respect in myself and my confidence in myself in dangerous situations. Recently I was in the Romanian mountains, it started to snow heavily, there was a blizzard, I was with a girl, it was her car. She goes, oh, we have to drive home. I said, I'm gonna drive. It was my car. I said, yeah, but I'm gonna drive. She said, why? Because this is a blizzard. She's like, well, okay. It's not me being misogynistic, it's just I know I can drive in a blizzard. I just trust me. I just trust myself. And I trust future self even more than I trust my current self, if that makes sense. So if I have a situation now where I have a play to make and it seems semi-risky, I'll think, well, future Andrew's even better than current Andrew. So future Andrew, 4 years from now, he'll fix it. Let's say it goes wrong. Future Andrew's got it. If current Andrew can pull X off, future Andrew can pull Y off. So we're going to take the riskier option with a bigger reward, for example. Obviously, you don't have to be stupid, but I think that when you have true belief in yourself and you have true competence, you're going to naturally inclinate towards being a protector and a provider and have these conservative values. It's really interesting that the closer a society is to the survival line, the closer people naturally bend to their gender roles anyway. So let's say we take America, right, where you have feminists and hard liberals and all this garbage. If they were all marooned on a desert island, let's say there's a shipwreck, they got marooned on a desert island, one of two things would happen. They'd stick with their Western world garbage and perish, or they would all quickly align to the natural baseline.
Sorry, Tate, bro. I'm not want to hear you anymore. I like your message, but you're repeating the same things over and over again, so I'm just bored. Sorry. That's it, guys, for the end of the video.